I got on the screen what we call factorial math. When you have just two variables, two things to consider, there's only choice A and choice B. Let's go down to 5 choices. If you have 5 things to consider, okay, then there are 120 different ways to look at it. I can take my money and put it over here. Also, I can break it up. I can take part of my money and put it over there, and then the other part I can put in 2 other places, or I can minimize the amount of money that I pay. So there are so many choices when it comes to this. So let's say you only have 5 choices. Did you realize when you do factorial math, there's 120 different ways to look at 5 different choices? Those are the variables. The 120 different ways, those, when we look at that, then we're saying, oh, one of them has to be the best way out of 120. And that's true. One of them is the best way. Which one is the best way out of 120? Do you know you have to take a look and do the math on all 120 to figure out the best way? Because if you choose 119 of these, you lose money on. Only one of them you make the most money on. The rest, you're losing money. All right, so now when we're doing this, we have identified at least 10 variables that you have to consider in paying off loans. So let's go down to 10 factorial. 10 factorial means that's 3,628,800 different ways to consider your money and figure out which way is the best way, or the one that's going to save you the most money. This is why when we get information from the Susie Ormans of the world or the Dave Ramseys of the world, they give us what's called a heuristic. It works somewhat, but is it the very best thing you can do? The answer is no, because the very best thing you can do requires a ton of math. Let me give you an example of what 10 variables would mean. All right. And each time you arrange the variables, it's called a permutation. Okay. So 10 variables will give you 3,628,800 permutations. And out of one of those permutations, one of them saves you the most money. Our program does factorial math. All right. So watch this. If you have 10 books on a shelf, and we have the books standing straight up, that's the only way we can arrange them, is standing straight up. We have 10 books on the shelf, and I want to rearrange those books so that we've got them numbered 1 through 10. And I need them in every possible configuration where each book is in each place, and how many times that we can get a unique fit configuration, meaning we can have the number 10 book can go in the number 1 place, and the number 1 book can go in the number 10 place. That's a configuration. Then we can have the number 10 and the number 1, and then the number 5 and the number 8 in its place. And so if we do all of that and find every possible configuration, it's like a combination lock. That's 3 million different ways. So if I gave you a job rearranging this bookshelf, and you worked on it for 30 hours a week, and I gave you 3 minutes to do each configuration, do you realize it would take you over 100 years to do 3,628,800 configurations, permutations, to figure out? Now we can tell, after 100 years, now we can tell which one is optimum. Or would you rather use a computer system that can tell you in 3 seconds? You tell me. That's what we're talking about, folks. If you want to know more about how all of this works, if you want to know how E.T. did it, if you want to know how a factorial is math, it's not magic, folks. It's math, and you need a tool to help you to do it. Do you know how many people call and say before they understand what's really going on behind the scenes, all I have to do is this? No, we've been told all you have to do is this, but each time you don't get the right configuration in paying off your debt Who picks up those extra pennies you didn't get? Who picks up the extra dollars you didn't save? By teaching you that it's a simple process and you don't have to pay attention to optimizing your finances. Anytime you don't optimize, the bank makes more money, and they're already making trillions. They're already making trillions. But if they give you a little something and says, if you could do this, here, you could save a little bit here. And we're satisfied with that. But we're far from doing all the math it takes to save the most in interest that we can possibly save. If you right now, just because this is the study we've done over the last 16 years with the P.I.L.L method. If I have two families, one just does the debt snowball, the other one does the P.I.L.L method, and they make exactly the same money, and they have the same bills, and they have the same house, and they have the same debts. One uses the P.I.L.L method, the other one uses the debt snowball. Do you realize that the one that uses the debt snowball will pay on average between $50,000 and $70,000 more in interest than the family that uses the P.I.L.L method? Because our focus is not on how fast to pay down the debt. Our focus is on how cheaply we can pay down the debt. That's what makes it fast. Take that money that you're already making and optimize its use so more of your money goes to the loan itself and less of your money goes to interest. That's what this is about. This is what the math is all about. All right? It's math, not magic. Right now, let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas and what he has to say. Thank you so much. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, and our team created the most powerful money management, wealth building, debt elimination system ever created. At our recent seminar in Nashville, Tennessee, the keynote speech was delivered by the #1 motivational speaker in the world, Dr. Eric Thomas. E.T., as he's also known, mentioned he paid off his mortgage in 4 years using the P.I.L.L Method. I invite you to watch and listen.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
Did you hear that? No mortgage, no stress. If you would like to become debt and mortgage free within an average of 7 to 9 years by cutting your interest costs by up to 75%, go to pillmethod.com and request a savings and earnings report today.